This week's guest on the podcast is Sarina Coventry, who is a nutritionist and also an EFT practitioner, which is emotional freedom technique. And I'm sure we'll be diving into more about what that is. But thank you so much for being here, Sarina. I'm really excited to hear about your journey as a nutritionist who both has your own business and also has worked with other businesses that we'll talk a little bit about your different roles and your current roles as well. So thank you for being here. And I'm really excited to dive into your career so far.
Me too. And thank you for having me. And it's so, it's kind of like a full, like full circle moment where when I had finished uni, this podcast, I listened to I binged every single episode.
Oh my gosh.
Give me hope and give me support. And yeah, I've probably listened to all of them.
Wow.
So it feels like such a treat and such an amazing, full circle moment to now be on here sharing my journey when everyone else's journeys has been so supportive for me. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. That is so heartwarming to hear. I love hearing when people are fans of the podcast and have listened to so many episodes. Yeah, thank you. And I'm so glad I've been able to support in that way. And it's so cool to finally have you here as well, sharing your journey so far as it continues to unfold.
Yes, absolutely. No, it feels incredible and I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, me too. Let's get started by talking a little bit about what first got you into the health and nutrition space.
So I think kind of stemmed from a few things. I was really lucky enough to grow up in a family where we always ate really well. Like my mum was that freak mother who would cook us meatballs and rice for breakfast in the morning. And my dad was always out on the whole food train and it was dal and lentils and avocado. And people would always make fun of my lunch when I was in school.
Oh,
So
no.
I think from a young age, I've definitely had a passion and interest in food and how eating good food makes you feel just amazing and its impact on your mood. I also had a lot of food sensitivities growing up. So I was gluten intolerant. Went through all these elimination diets. So exploring that relationship between food and mood and how it made me feel was just massive. And for me, the gluten side of it was very neurological. So when I ate gluten, I'd be really cranky. I'd feel like I was hungover, all this brain fog. So it kind of just grew my awareness of that kind of whole food picture and how it isn't just eating food necessarily for joy or pleasure, but it has such an impact on your body as well.
Yeah.
But I initially actually went to uni to study psychology. I always kind of thought that being in the nutrition world or whatever, wouldn't make you money, or people always be a doctor or be a psychologist.
Yeah.
And I went through a breakup and had this I was like, I don't want to do psychology anymore. I don't want to do this. And I met a random old friend for coffee and she started talking about how she was doing nutrition at uni. She was going to go to Endeavour College. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that. Maybe this is finally the time that I can actually go and do my passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the open day there to talk about it. And when I was in that room, 3 different people said to me oh, you look really familiar. Have you been here before? And I had never stepped foot into the uni. And I was just okay, this is a sign that this is where I'm meant to be. So it just kind of unraveled from there. It's it just sort of fell into my lap and I just followed it.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that journey and that you've got that background and just how it all so perfectly kind of seemed to unravel there and you've ended up where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved being at uni. It was such a good experience. And I love being at Endeavour College and all of the people there were literally family. So it just kind of made it that much easier to study whilst you're in an environment that you love.
Totally. Yeah, it makes such a difference, doesn't it? And in what order did you do? So you started with psychology, then you went into nutrition. Did EFT come in after that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I graduated in 2019 at Endeavour, literally just before COVID hit.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I had this big plan to go and travel Europe for 6 months to kind of figure out what I wanted to do because I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah.
That didn't happen though because obviously no one was flying anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think it was a year later, my mum was actually studying EFT and she would always talk to me about how amazing it was. And I was like, okay, this weird tapping thing when you're tapping on your face, what is this? but I started having sessions with her and I was like, oh my God, this is absolutely life-changing and completely changed my life. So I was like, okay, I'm going to study this. So I
Yeah.
think I finished, that was a year of like clinical EFT.
Mhm.
And I finished that in 2022.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who did you do that one through?
I did that through EFT Universe, which is, I think they're an American-based company. It was all online, but I
Okay.
had an Australian mentor, Naomi Jensen, who was absolutely incredible.
Beautiful.
Um, but the main, I can't remember his name now. The main guy behind EFT Universe, he is involved in so much research,
Mm.
which is really, really cool because you get to kind of get a feel for all the work that they're doing in the space, and it just adds a lot more, I guess, like research-based evidence around how much it can help people. So that was really good.
Yeah, I love how much research is coming out around it now because like I've experienced EFT as well and like you can feel the difference it's making and like just the instantaneous stress relief from it. But like now that they've actually got the science backing it as well, it's so good because we're able to reach more and more people now that they're learning and they're seeing that proof, even though like you can feel the proof. Some people also like that science side of it. So it's cool that we're merging the worlds.
Yeah, and it's awesome to see how much EFT is actually like popping off online. And
Yeah.
I must say there's a lot of people doing it incorrectly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are clinically trained and teaching it. And it's just, yeah, it's going off at the moment and people are really starting to understand and be like, oh, what is this? So it's an exciting space to be growing in.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you combine the nutrition side of things and the EFT side of things in your appointments, or do you have separate appointments for like nutrition and then separate ones for EFT?
Yeah, I tend to keep them separate because I find to get like the best results with EFT, you want to dedicate, a solid hour to it so
Yeah.
you can go like as deep as possible.
Yeah.
So sometimes the nutrition consult might come first where they might be coming in for I don't know, something around like fertility or like a reproductive disorder. And based on their language or things that they're saying that might indicate, emotional distress or limiting beliefs, then I will kind of suggest to them and be like, oh, this might be of value for you to just kind of help calm your nervous system and your emotions and your stress response. So it's been a really powerful tool to just give people that additional support.
Yeah, beautiful. That's a cool way to structure it, having them separate and just telling people if you feel like there's a need for it, which I feel like there's always a need for EFT. It's so good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have had consults with clients where even if we have never done an EFT session before, if they're talking about something that is causing them a lot of distress, I'll just tell them to start tapping on the side of their hand just so that while they're talking, they can kind of calm themselves down as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. Oh, that's powerful tools to have in your toolkit.
Yeah, absolutely. Very
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, beautiful. And so tell us a little bit about your business first, and then we'll talk about some of your other roles that you've been involved in with other health brands and yeah, some really cool things and
Yeah.
businesses you've been in.
So
Yeah.
with the nutrition and the EFT side, I have my clinic at the moment. It's all online,
Yeah.
which makes it really easy and cool to be able to connect with people all around the world. I had a client from Dubai the other day, which was awesome.
Wow. Yeah.
So with the nutrition side of it, I'm mainly working with like supporting people in their menstrual cycle. I love the menstrual cycle. Like it's my mom was always like, why are you talking about periods all the time?
So important.
I know. So I'm like, mom, it's so important.
Yeah.
Helping them to optimize their cycle if they have reproductive disorders like PCOS, endo, things like that. And helping them to really just tune into their body. So what I teach is something called cycle syncing.
Yeah.
If you've heard of that. If people haven't heard of that before, it's basically a way of kind of shifting your nutrition, your movement, your lifestyle to be in accordance with the phases of your cycle. So you can kind of work with your hormones and what your body really needs rather than essentially working against it, which is what mainstream society kind of encourages. um, and then with the EFT stuff or the EFT side, we're really just working to calm people's nervous systems based on whatever's kind of happening for them. A lot of the time it might be people having issues with food. They might have a poor relationship with food, poor relationship with their body, with themselves. they might just have a really stressful life, and so they experience a lot of anxiety and stress. And I think the cool thing about EFT is that you can use the same like methods of tapping for literally everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what someone is necessarily coming in for, because you can use the same tools to help them calm their nervous system, which has such an amazing impact on like all other areas of their life.
Yeah, beautiful. That seems like a great way to approach it. And I love how you're bringing in such a holistic perspective and really coming from that holistic health side of things. And even bringing in that cycle syncing and really like helping people get to know their body and what's good for them at different times of their cycle. And that works so fittingly as well with one of the roles you currently have, working for the seed cycle. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that if you're open to sharing.
Yes, absolutely. So the Seed Cycle is this like incredible company that started 2 years ago with Mel, the founder, who I actually met through EFT.
Oh, beautiful.
So yeah, it's such a excuse me, such a small world. She was a functional nutritionist and EFT tapping practitioner,
Yeah.
and we connected through the EFT world. And she started Seed Cycle, which is essentially, if anyone's heard of seed cycling, it's a way of utilizing different seeds across the different phases of your cycle to support your hormones. And most of the time when practitioners give out the seeds, you have to kind of like pre-grind them yourself and package them and whatnot. So she's basically gone ahead and like pre-packaged it into these beautiful containers, and they've got their bake mixes and things like that, which is just awesome. So I'm a big manifester, and I was kind of like, I would love to work with female-led company. Like being in the startup phase would be so cool because I get to grow with them, and something in terms of like something along the lines of women's health would be awesome. And I just thought of Mel, and I was like, oh my God, maybe I'll just reach out to her and ask her if she wants some help with, spreading the awareness about the product. So I had a chat with her, and she was like, sure, I'd love your help. And we had a few meetings and whatnot about ways in which I could help her. And I basically spend, at the moment, it's 1 day a week. It will be extending to more kind of as their business continues growing.
Yeah.
But I'm essentially like her business development manager. So I get the really fun role of talking to people online, building relationships with new potential wholesalers and affiliates, and just building relationships with people and other practitioners so that we can continue expanding awareness about the seed cycle and growing our brands and growing people using it and supporting their hormones. So yeah, it feels super exciting. And I'm learning so many new things each day, which is also really, really fun.
Yeah, amazing. What a cool role. And it definitely, like, I feel like exciting is the perfect word for it because there's so much opportunity to support them in their growth and grow alongside them, as you said. Like, and Mel is amazing. I've had her on my other podcast, The Shana Show, and yeah, just like listening to the behind the scenes of her business and her vision and the impact and all of that. It's a really cool thing to be a part of. So yeah.
Totally. And yeah, it's an amazing opportunity to be like growing alongside them, because I think a lot of the time when you work for a business or a company, you don't get to see all of it.
Yeah.
I get to see the ins and outs and work so closely with her, which I always find like working with the person who's created a business, you get to work so closely to their vision and their energy and their presence is really beautiful. So yeah, I'm so incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah, that's really special. And so what are some of like the roles in that business that you currently do? You've sort of touched on a few of them, but yeah, just like any other breakdown you can give us to give us like a bit of a vision of the kind of stuff you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned before, building relationships and like reaching out to potential wholesalers that want to stock our product, or influencers, or people who want to become affiliates. A lot of the time these will be practitioners who have their own practice.
Yep.
That might be through like emailing them, DMing them on Instagram. I get to research all the beautiful little wellness hubs and things like that that are around Australia. So it's awesome to be able to connect with those people and, talk to them.
Yeah. Great
And
networking.
yeah, it's awesome building those skills as well.
Yeah.
Together, we run little trainings for our current affiliates and wholesales. So we're hoping to do more and more in the future where we can talk about hormones and put on workshops and things like that. So practitioners can come together and meet each other and also just like really understand how the seed cycle can support people's hormones and why it's so important.
Yeah.
Keeping up to date as well with all the research that keeps coming out around seed cycling, which is cool that more and more is starting to happen. So we can keep adding that to our website, things like that.
Yeah.
I'll be moving into doing a little bit more social media work with her. So getting to the behind the scenes of what goes into like our website. I'll be doing her emails and her marketing, which is lots of fun.
Yeah.
And we get to go to expos. We've got a couple coming up. I think there's 3 that we're going to this year. So there's one we're going to that's up in Queensland, which I get to fly and go away with her, which is really fun.
So cool.
Yeah, and then talk to bigger companies that potentially want to stock the seed cycle, or people in the health and wellness industry that want to understand more about their hormones and how they can support them. So it's kind of like a whole bunch of stuff that I get to continuously keep learning, and we get to keep growing the business together. And yeah, it feels really rewarding and fun.
Yeah, beautiful. And such a nice thing to do alongside your own business, because it can be so exciting working with someone. Like working in our own businesses can get like lonely at times. So it's nice that you've got that beautiful mix. And they get to do fun things like going away to expos and more networking and meeting heaps of really cool people in the industry. That sounds so amazing.
Yeah, it feels really good. And like you said, I think working for yourself, it can get incredibly lonely. So being able to be part of a team, and then it's great because Mel's able to kind of cross refer clients to me, and I get to refer them to her. So yeah, it feels really good.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. And speaking of like roles, responsibilities, those kinds of things, we haven't actually dove into that around your business just yet. So what are some of the things, and I know in business we wear so many hats, so this conversation itself could be an episode, but are there a few like kind of key things that you do within your business that you find are really supportive for growing your business and being able to have it as a sustainable, relatively full-time role that you're doing?
Yeah. It's hard to pick. I mean, like you just said, there's so many hats that so many different skills that you do in terms of like creating your own business. I think first and foremost is probably, because I'm online, social media plays a huge part in that.
Yeah.
Feeling comfortable in using social media, using Instagram. I remember the first time that I got on Instagram and videoed myself talking, and I was like, oh my God, I hate myself.
Oh
And I
no.
was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. And the more and more, it's all new. And the more and more you do it, the more comfortable you get. So yeah, I think getting comfortable in like creating content and showing your face and building connections and relationships with people online has been super important.
Yeah.
And building good communication skills. So there's so much writing and emailing and interpersonal skills, and learning how to build and keep those relationships, and being able to talk to people without being too like salesy is so icky for me. And it's like being able to talk to people in a way that's like, yeah, my services could really help and support you, and being able to communicate that through social media without being like, yeah, buy my stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a big one. Good communication skills. Time management and organization. My weeks can get like quite chaotic. There's a lot of different things that go on. So I find having a really good planner and like scheduler. I've learned to put my personal email and my work email all into one Google Calendar.
Yeah.
So that was like a game changer for me. I was like, oh, this makes my life so much easier.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, which has been really good. Problem solving. I think sometimes with clients, sometimes you might have a client and just be like, I literally don't know how to help you. You obviously don't say that to them, but in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't know how to help you. So being able to stay calm and just like problem solve and have a network that you can reach out to of other practitioners, being like, hey, I've always tried like really hard to make sure I'm friends with other people in the industry so that you can just be like, hey, I got this and this is a bit weird and I don't know what to do with this. What are your thoughts and ideas? So yeah, having that ability to problem solve has been super important.
Yeah.
Networking, like I mentioned before, to be able to connect with and chat to others. There's been so many random and wonderful things that have come my way purely through just having like a conversation with someone, or even I think I reached out to you regarding the seed cycle products, and then this conversation and podcast interview kind of just unfolded. So
Yeah.
being like open to new things and different things.
Yeah.
What else? Probably knowing how to support yourself emotionally. That's
Yeah.
like been huge, because I think running your own business, I mean, for me anyways, brought up so much. And I know from the other episodes that I've heard of people talking as well, there's a lot of self-doubt, there's a lot of self-criticism, there's like that imposter syndrome. Am I good enough at this? Can I make enough money? Am I helping people in the right way? How do I help more people? I'm not helping enough people. So yeah, being able to emotionally regulate, which again, the tapping has been so important for that to come in and help me as well as help.
I was actually gonna make that one of the questions, like how much do you use EFT and tapping on yourself when, like, for example, when you said that first time you showed up on social media and you had those feelings of hating yourself or not being able to do it, like, did you go straight to tapping or?
Literally, I was
Yeah.
like, I tap every day. I'm sitting, you
Amazing.
probably see me in the traffic and I'm sitting in the car.
I love a car tap. It's so good.
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
it's so good for just like making me feel calm and peaceful.
Yeah, amazing. And do you feel
Yeah.
like it has supported in breaking through some of those blocks or really supporting with that nervous system regulation or managing your emotions? Because like you said, it's such a big part of business. And I always say that having a business is like getting a PhD in personal development, because you're going to like be shown your triggers or the areas you need to grow or the areas you're hiding or whatever it may be. There's so much that comes out when we're in business and having to put ourselves out to the world. So do you find that tapping's been really supportive in helping you get to the next levels of your business?
Oh my gosh, yes. Like I feel like without it, I probably would have quit a while ago.
Yeah, wow.
I think that having that skill to back yourself and know that you've got yourself and emotionally support yourself
Yeah.
is, I mean, it could almost be bigger than actually social media as being like the main skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Totally.
definitely a huge one. And so many other practitioners I talk to as well, it's kind of like you can get through a degree, you can get distinctions, you can do really well in your assignments, you can have such a drive for wanting to help people and nourish and support people. But until you're like actually having to put yourself out there and you're actually seeing clients who have, you know, real world problems and you want to help them,
Yeah.
that's when this little voice tends to creep in. It's like, oh, can you do this? Oh, are you good enough? And honestly, it's been so incredible to just help me be like, you're going to be okay, and to break through any of the chatter and the limiting beliefs and the fears and the worries. So it's been a game changer.
Yeah, amazing. Such a
Absolute game
cool.
changer.
Yeah, beautiful. And do you have any like tips for other people who are in business or going out into their careers and deciding what they want to do when it does come to that emotional regulation and like something like tapping? Like, do you have any tips for them and like tools they can add to their toolkit or things that you found really helpful? Because obviously tapping is one of those, and that can be your advice: learn to tap or get
Yeah.
someone to support with tapping. But yeah, is there anything that you can like pay forward to the listeners to support them on their own journeys too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different things. I found in the beginning of my journey was the most daunting, because I was like, oh my God, the social media thing and the clients thing, and how do I do this? And am I going to be able to do this? So I just spoke to as many people as I could.
Yeah.
I have always been like, I love hearing from people who have done the thing,
Yeah.
and they're like, these were the challenges and these were the struggles. It kind of, I don't know, it gives me a lot of hope. So I always
Yeah.
try to reach out to, if I feel like the little fish, I want to reach out to the shark. and be
Yeah.
like, how did you get there? So for me, and this might not work for everyone, but for me, I reached out to other nutritionists and EFT practitioners and just kind of said, how did you get to where you are? Like, what were the things that you did? What were the things that you struggled with? Sometimes, like, I've offered to take nutritionists out for coffee. I've had phone calls, and most people are pretty down to chat about it. And they just kind of give you this like vision forward of being like, okay, well, oftentimes they'll totally resonate with what you're saying. So you're like, okay, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And then they're able to kind of guide you and be like, these are the things that I did that helped me to get here. So yeah, I find just like talking to as many people as you can really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And then just like to keep learning and stay curious. I don't think that we ever stop learning.
Yeah.
And keep finding ways and things that work for you and make you feel calm if you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed by what you're doing. So tapping may be the thing that helps you, it might not be. I found that in that first kind of 6 months to a year of starting with my own stuff, I was like thinking about it all the time, and I felt like I had to be on all the time, or writing content and writing blogs and thinking about what I was going to be creating so that I could get more clients. It just led to burnout. So creating quite strong boundaries around like, okay, these are the times that I want to work. And although it feels scary because in the beginning you want to be like, I just want to be like this total powerhouse that's calling in all these clients and really busy. But if you don't put those boundaries in of these are my work times and these are my off times, then I find that you'll lead to exhaustion, and it actually doesn't get you anywhere. You think you're getting ahead, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
Totally. And because you're so big on cycle syncing, do you incorporate that into your business as well?
Yes, absolutely. So if I'm doing, let me have an example. If I'm trying to create content and like write blogs or write Instagram posts or things that I'm going to do, I will actively choose to do that like in my follicular phase, which is kind of like just when my periods ended up until ovulation. Because most of the time that's when you're kind of most creative and outgoing and alive and your estrogen's building. So I'll try and do it in that phase rather than before I incorporated cycle syncing. I would try and do work when I had my period, and I was like, why isn't my brain working? And then you get frustrated. So definitely trying to organize tasks and even like calls and meetings and things like that around when I am ovulating or when I know I'm going to have the most energy. And then allowing myself to create space. And so I don't have as many tasks and things to do when I have my period. So I can just kind of like rest.
Yeah, beautiful. It makes such a difference, doesn't it? Such a beneficial thing.
Oh my gosh. Yes. It's one of those, I always say this to clients who I'm working with, is it's kind of one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah.
how did I do all this?
Yeah, absolutely. And just like even the level of having to be more in tune with your body can be so rewarding. I notice even like now, if I'm recording a podcast when I'm like at certain stages in my menstrual cycle, I can be like slurring over the words so much more than I normally would be. And I used to beat myself up about that. And now I'm like, oh, it's just because you've organized a podcast for probably not the best time in your cycle. And it's okay. Like, don't beat yourself up about it. Just like roll with it. So like even just having that extra layer of compassion or being able to plan around it and be like, okay, cool. Now I know that I'm not going to be thinking as well, or I'm not going to be speaking as clearly. Let's shift podcast recordings to these times, or important calls or presentations or whatever it may be.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say as well, is the cycle syncing and working with your body and like really actually deeply understanding it adds such a powerful compassion piece. It's easy to beat yourself up and to be like, oh, why couldn't I train at the gym this hard? Or why am I so hungry today? Or why can't my brain think? You can then look back and be like, oh, what are my hormones doing? And then be like, oh, maybe I'm feeling this way because of this, rather than just being like, be better, or,
Yeah. Totally. It's so important to have that compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of syncing to your cycle, do you also seed cycle working for Mel and with Mel? Like, do you use the products yourself?
Yes, I love them. And she's got these awesome bake mixes. So she's got brownies and cookies,
It sounds
which
so
essentially,
good.
I know, it's so good. Essentially, you can make like a batch of cookies or a batch of brownies and
Yeah.
just have one each day, depending on which phase of your cycle you're in.
Yeah.
And then getting your hit of seeds as well. So
So good.
I
I've said that
noticed for
too.
myself, it helped really clear my skin up.
Awesome. Yeah.
Great little side piece.
Yeah, absolutely. All the benefits. Yeah, I was joking to Mel about it on our podcast episode together around like getting to have a brownie a day sounds like a dream. And like she just made it such like a easy thing to do and with extra benefits when it's coming to seed cycling as well.
Oh my gosh, of course. And that's why I just like, I love and so back what she's doing, because it makes something so gentle and easy that can provide such incredible benefits.
Yeah.
Um, like so accessible and delicious. Like who doesn't want to eat a
Yeah.
brownie every day? Or have
Totally. Yeah, totally. And the seeds themselves, like she makes it so convenient. I've also used them. And yeah, love using them. Definitely
Yeah.
going back for more.
Yeah, and then, together we get to create recipes and ideas for new things and ways we can use them. So yeah, I love that creative side, and yeah, what she's done is just absolutely amazing. And I love female-led businesses. So
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. And it's really cool that you're such a big part of that as well, and that you get to have a role in the recipe developing and all that fun creative stuff, like really, yeah, working with the creativity and branching
yeah,
out. Like when we think of nutrition careers, and obviously this whole podcast is like to dispel the myth that we can only go down the path of clinical nutrition, but it's so cool hearing how your business and your roles kind of infuse a lot of different things, and what we can make possible for us.
totally. And even as we were chatting about before we started recording, is I kind of had this vision that when I finish uni, I mean, I didn't even know what I wanted to do when I finished uni. It all kind of just unfolded for me.
Yeah.
But I thought that I had to have a clear linear path of, well, this is what it's going to be, and then this is going to lead to this, and this is going to be that. But almost the beauty and the magic of it is that it kind of unfolded itself. And even in the times where I was like, I'm not sure about this, or I'm not sure how to move forward with this, or how I'm going to get more clients, or whatever, it just has this magical way. As long as you have like a vision and I think passion around what you want to do, it always has this way of unfolding in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, absolutely. And what really has supported you in remembering that passion and continuing to go forward, even in those times where it may have been tough?
Oh, it's a good question. I think just reminding myself of what it is that I want to do and how I want to help these women, and like how important, I think I just really believe in the work that I'm doing and how important it is to get it out there. And when you have those clients that come to you and they say, I got pregnant when I've been trying for this amount of time, or I got my period and I didn't have pain, or things that you've been working with someone for months on, and to hear their stories. If I'm ever in a place of like, I don't know how to move forward, or I feel stuck, or I don't know if I should be doing this anymore, I always go back to those stories or the beautiful messages that people write. And it just kind of re-sparks your passion and ignites that fire of reminding you of what it is that you do, or why you do what you do.
Yeah, that's so beautiful and so nice to have like that. Know that you're making that impact and have those things that you can look back at or think back to and be like, yeah, I really am making the impact and this is why I'm doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And some days I finish with like seeing clients for a day and I just think, wow, like I get to get paid for this, and I get
Yeah.
to improve people's lives. And it's those days that you really hold on to and you're just like, wow, like this just feels like a dream.
Yeah, makes it all worth it.
Yeah, so wonderful. And I think also just having people around you, like I have incredibly strong support networks and friendships.
Beautiful.
Being able to lean on friends and have a cry and be like, today was really hard, and for
Yeah.
them to hold that space for you, or to be like, today was an awesome day and a client got pregnant, or like this happened, or her blood test came back and she's had such dramatic changes in her iron or whatever.
Yeah.
And have your friends just really celebrate you, because sometimes you can celebrate your own wins, but sometimes just having those external people be like, wow, like look at you go, can really just be a big win for the day.
100%. I'm a big advocate for having people that can support you through the highs and the lows. It really
Yeah.
does help. Yeah.
100%, 100%. Just building, I think just like some clients see you as part of their team,
Yeah.
is building a team around you as well, so that you have people to lean on for support. And especially having friends in the industry or listening to a podcast like this, it just gives you, it just allows you to kind of release those doubts and be like, okay, like this is a pretty common story for most of us in this industry, working one-on-one with clients.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of, what would be some advice that you would have loved to give yourself back in those days where you just finished uni and you were listening to these podcast episodes? What do you wish you could tell yourself back then?
Oh, so many things. I think to just release the pressure valve a little bit. Like I was saying before, in needing to have a clear plan, a clear structure as to where it's going and what I'm going to do. Most of what I'm doing now, I never imagined that I would be doing.
Yeah.
I think I would just say to myself, stay curious, follow your passions. Like I said before, talking to as many people as you can and networking, and really getting an awareness and an understanding of what's out there and what's actually available for you to be doing. I know like in the nutrition industry, there's so many different avenues that you can go down, like so many.
So many.
So yeah, just really getting a feel for that and talking to multiple people is the way that I do it, because I'm like, I want to hear everyone's perspective and then I'll formulate mine.
Yeah.
And just going easy on myself. I think being like, just, it's like, if I know, it's hard because if I could know back then where I would be now,
Yeah.
I think that I would just release that pressure valve so much. But it's kind of like that unknown of, well, where is this going and what am I doing? But I would just, I would want to tell myself to just have trust, have faith, and also to really feel into what, like, instead of always having a picture of what it's going to be like in the future, have a picture of the feeling.
Yes, I love this.
What do you want that feeling to be? Because I think for so long in my career, I've been like, well, this is the title that I want to have, and these are the things that I want to be doing, and that's what I want this to look like. And it's turned out completely different.
Yeah.
The feeling that I've wanted of that deep fulfillment and being satisfied with my role and like having that impact, as long as you can hold on to what that feeling feels like, I feel like it will unfold for you in a way that could be super magical and like nothing you ever expected.
Yeah, that is so important, because so often we chase goals, not realizing that the thing we're actually chasing is the feeling that we think we're going to get when we reach that goal. And it's like, well, why can't we just cultivate that now and still work towards these big, beautiful things and just see what happens along the way? Because sometimes it will kind of go a different way. Like you said, it might be that the thing that makes you most fulfilled isn't the idea of what you think it will be. Like maybe we think, working with clients 5 days a week back to back is going to make us feel fulfilled because we're making an impact, but maybe the reality is we're going to be burnt out or not in sync with our bodies and our cycles, or stressed because we're trying to keep up with too much. Maybe fulfillment is actually like having a more space in the calendar and deeper relationships with the clients you do have, and certain days set aside for that and certain days set aside for other passions. Like, we don't know what that's going to look like, but looking for that feeling is such beautiful advice. So thank you for bringing that in. Yeah.
100%. And I think it can just lead you down, so rather than being hooked on an idea or a vision of something, it can lead you down all these other pathways that you didn't even know were possible, because it also ignites that same feeling.
Totally. Yes, I love that. Has there been anything for you that's been kind of like you've been chasing that feeling and really like knowing that you wanted to, that's what you want to feel, so you just say yes to opportunities that help you feel that and no to opportunities that don't? And has there been any opportunities that have come along that have been really cool, or anything you want to like mention that you might not have expected was something that you ended up doing along your journey?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing thus far was the work with the seed cycle.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I think I told Mel when I mean, I did reach out to her, but I told Mel once we started talking about the role and what it could look like, because I'm a massive journaler, and I write down how I want to feel and how I want to show up in that situation or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wish I had my journal near me, because the things that I wrote in there of how I want to feel and what I want that business to look like, or what I want the people involved in that business to look like, how I want to feel when I'm working with that team or that person,
Yeah.
is literally what Mel has created within Seed Cycle.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't, and after I'd written that, I was like, okay, I'm just trusting that something is going to come my way, or an idea is going to blossom or something like that. And literally that idea of reaching out to her and asking if she needs support in her business, it just sprouted. I don't know where it came from or like how it happened,
Yeah.
but it's such a clear manifestation of all of the feelings that I had written in my diary, which is just insane.
That is so incredible. I love when that happens. And it's just like, how? How is it such a close match? It's so
I
awesome.
know. And we will never know how it's such a close
Yeah,
match.
we don't need to either. That's part of the fun of it, isn't it? It's kind of like just like knowing what we want and knowing that feeling that we desire, and then just surrendering that and trusting that the right thing will come through.
Absolutely. And I've
Yeah.
found so much as well, like especially in this industry where I know during like peak COVID, I felt so I was so unsteady with myself and the world around me that I kind of had the energy of like, oh, I need clients and I need money. And it was like this like grabby, icky energy that actually wasn't attracting anyone. And I was like, why am I getting no clients? Like, I need the money. And then once you kind of let go of that control and then feel into, like, I wasn't feeling into the feeling at all of what it would be like to be seeing, 4 or 5 clients a day or whatever my goal was back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, just relinquishing that control and being like, it's going to work out, and feeling into the feeling into your purpose, into your passion, why you're doing what you're doing. It just, you get to relinquish that like grabby energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's powerful advice and things to be touching on. Yeah.
Yeah, much easier said than done.
Yeah,
But
totally.
into practice, it's been such a game changer for me.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. I'm just like, there's so many things I could ask you, like so many
So
avenues we
many
could go
tangents we
down. I
could
feel
go
like,
down.
yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
we've touched so much epic stuff. And I'm like, oh, what else do I want to like capture before we have to wrap it up? Like,
Yeah.
maybe I'll throw it over to you. Is there anything else you'd love to share about your journey, any of your roles, any of your things you do in your business, anything that has been part of your journey to date? Obviously, you're still just getting started. You're already doing such phenomenal things, but there's so much more ahead of you as well. But to date, what are some other things that you might want to touch on or share with the listeners today?
I think that it takes time to create balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that everyone will have their own individual journey with how their business unfolds. And I think that you really just need to, when you think something's a failure or you're feeling like something's really hard, often those are where you have like the biggest breakthroughs or the biggest pivotal moments. And I know, like, I've been there, like, to be in that moment of being like, this feels really hard and I feel lost and I feel scared and I don't really know what I'm doing, is just to like sit with it and to reach out to friends in the industry, to reach out to other practitioners, and just know that you're going to be grateful for those moments in the future to come. And even though it never feels like that at the time,
Yeah.
I think just, yeah, be present with yourself and find balance where you can.
Mm-hmm.
I know sometimes you need to achieve the opposite of balance in order to be like, okay, I need the balance.
Yeah.
But I think just letting your journey kind of unfold as it will. And definitely creating a vision and a bigger picture of what you want. I think having goals in the forefront of your mind is super important.
Yeah.
But almost like letting go of attachment to all the little bits and feeling like this needs to be perfect or that needs to be perfect. Like I remember before I even started sharing that I was open for consults or whatnot, I just spent so long on my website and like nitty gritty stuff that didn't matter. And I was like, well, until this is perfect, then I'm not going to be able to share this. But I say just go for it, because most of the time you fear that like 100 people are going to be running in the door like, okay, I need your services. But often in the beginning, it takes a little bit of time to build it up and just to trust that it will build and to keep going. That's the biggest, like just keep going, keep swimming.
Yes, I love it. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
Yes. Yeah.
Finding Nemo, we're onto it.
Yeah. And like to not be afraid to ask for help. I think
Yes.
for a long part of time, for a long part of like my career, I was kind of like, no, you should be able to do this and you should know how to do this and whatnot. But just asking people for help or what they did, it just cuts down so much time. And like we touched on before with wearing all the hats, we did a nutrition degree learning about gastrointestinal health and how to regulate people's bowel movements and produce neurotransmitters, not social media and emailing and marketing and all of that. So ask for help where you need it.
Yes, such good advice. It's a big one, and it's one that we can be so resistant to, thinking that we do need to do it all alone, but we absolutely don't. And it's actually a lot of fun when you bring other people in on the journey and like have that support and work with others and help them. Like there's so many ways to do it as well.
Totally. Yeah. And it makes it all the more exciting. And then you get
Yeah.
to build relationships with people and network and learn things you might have never have learnt before, because
Totally.
like the amount of hacks that people have given me from just being like, hey, I'm struggling with this.
Yeah.
And then they tell you something and you're like, oh my God, like how long would it have taken me to figure that out?
Totally. 'Cause especially when it's something that's just like a complete blind spot, that's not even like you can just Google how to do this thing. It's like they just reintroduce these like concepts that you're like, I wouldn't have even thought of that. Like you don't know what you don't know. So you can't like find out that without them kind of planting that seed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's such a good point.
So go, when you feel like a little fish, go find the sharks. Go talk to the
Yes,
sharks.
I love it. And do you have any tips for anyone who does want to reach out to someone who they consider to be a shark and they're feeling a bit intimidated or scared to reach out?
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, I don't know if I've ever like properly thought about the way that I've reached out to someone before, but the people that I have reached out to, I've just been like, hey, I love what you're doing. I think people always love hearing that you like their work and what they're doing and that they've inspired you or something like that. But yeah, getting their email or getting their Instagram or something like that and just being like, hey, really love what you're doing. I would love to hear like how you got to where you were, or if you're willing to share some tips about how you built your career, or if there's something specifically that you're struggling with, just be like, hey, I'm having some trouble with this. I would love to know if you could give me a hand or whatever. Even just reaching out to, like recently I just got in touch with an EFT trainer and I messaged him and I was just like, hey, love your work. How did you get to where you are? Tell me the things, just like being super upfront. And then if they don't want to tell you the things, they then have the space to be like, hey, like I charge for this, or hey, like I don't really have much to share with you. Luckily, he went through my whole website, like just randomly. He was like, these are things you could be doing better. Ask yourself these questions.
Wow.
And now I'm actually helping him out at one of his trainings as an emotional assistant. So
Amazing.
yeah, so I think if you don't ask, you never know. So I think just go in like all guns blazing, and then give people, they have the opportunity to be like, no, I can't help you with this, or
Yeah.
I like would love to help you with this.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's so
Yeah,
opportunities that can come as well, like now supporting him with that training. And I'm
yeah,
sure you'll meet really cool people at that training and get great experience from that. And then who knows what will come from that one opportunity as well.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, is you just like, you never know if you don't ask.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just got to go for it. And like even anyone listening, I'm always open for a phone call or like a message or whatever, if you just need to like talk something out, I find that just having another person in the same industry can be so immensely helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, beautiful. Awesome. Now, for one of my favorite questions, if you could recommend any book for every listener to read, what would it be and why?
Ooh, I would say the book that has changed my entire life would be the book about cycle syncing,
Yeah.
which is In the Flow by Alyssa Vitti.
Yeah.
Um, so I found that when I read this book, she talks about like everything about hormones, everything about cycle syncing. And I found that understanding my body and connecting with how I feel at different times of the month and what makes me feel good or bad or whatever,
Yeah.
that was like the baseline for a whole other personal development journey.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, how can I make myself feel better in other ways, and what can I add to make my life more full and joyous and abundant and purposeful? So that book for me was just like a total game changer in connecting with myself on a way bigger than like nutrition scale.
Yeah.
So I
Awesome.
definitely recommend that one, even for men, to understand like how women work a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a good
yeah,
point.
that was a really good book.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I've had that in my wish list for a while. So might be time. That might be the prompt for me to actually add to cart this time.
Yes, it is such a game changer. And like there's a bit of like it's pretty sciencey,
Yeah.
but a lot of the things she touches on is just like, wow, how did like, this is what sparked this book literally led me down my path of like the areas of women's health and the menstrual cycle that I now specialize in. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, again, like that curiosity piece of just I was just like, oh, this looks like a cool book, like to understand myself a bit more, and then
Yeah.
boom, unfolded a whole new world.
Wow. That is so, so cool. Awesome. Yeah. And so is there any other parting words of advice or wisdom that you'd love to wrap up with today?
Oh, um, parting words of wisdom is probably sometimes things don't make sense. Sometimes things feel hard. Um, but I think I've touched on this. You just have to keep on going and keep your passion and vision in the front of your mind.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I think I touched on this as well as like journaling. Journaling
Mm.
where you want to go and what you want that to look like and how you want to feel and what your kind of like bigger picture is. Because I kid you not, I have looked back in journals and I have written down the month that I have wanted something to happen, and like 2 years later I've then gone back and been like, oh my god, that thing happened.
Wow.
And it's just a way of like putting your intentions out there and getting clear on what you want.
Yeah.
And even just like mentally, I'm quite a visual person. It depends how people learn, but even just like mentally ordering the things that you want to do and drawing bubbles and like diagrams and whatever it is that makes it make sense to you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, journaling like what it is that the way you want to end up has been super important.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a way to wrap it up. And
Yeah.
for anyone who does want to follow your journey and learn more about you and your services and what you're doing, where can they find you?
So they can find me on Instagram, which is Sarina, Sarina Coventry _ and then my website, which is sarinacoventry.com. So again, Sarina, no E's. Which,
Yeah. Beautiful.
yeah, and I'm again like I'm always open to people reaching out if they just want to have a chat or download any information going on in their brain, talk it out. That's been like so beneficial for me. So yeah, and just super grateful to be able to share all this with people entering this field and expanding into the nutrition industry, which is so exciting and so rewarding.
Yeah, so rewarding, so worth it. Like you said, don't give up. It's like, yeah, such a great place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. This episode has been amazing. And we've touched on, like, you've just shared so many just golden nuggets, like so much good advice, so much good wisdom. There was a lot in this episode, and it was just so beautiful to have you here and to hear from you and learn about your experience so far. And yeah, really incredible. And thank you for being a long time listener. And it's so cool to have you here and be able to hear about your journey now and how I've been able to positively support you, because that's like such an honor.
Yeah, well, thank
Yeah.
you for creating this podcast, and like it's had such a huge impact on me and probably so many others out there. And honestly, I feel so blessed to be able to now share my journey on it and to, I guess, be part of that. It's again that complete full circle moment. But yeah, it's been amazing chatting to you, and hopefully this gives someone else out there the support that they need to be like, yes, I've got this. I'm going to keep swimming.
Yes, I have no doubt that it absolutely will. So thank you again. And I look forward to continuing to follow your journey.
You too. Thanks. Bye.